So
Yeah,
that
it's
was cool
fire.
too because we already had the
I gotta ask a
all the
question because, like, it's gonna seem maybe a little ignorant, but what's the Quebec City hip hop scene like at that time? Like, is it big? Like, I don't know anything about the Quebec City hip hop scene. I know that stuff's bubbling in Quebec around. I'm assuming this is like the early 2000s, late 90s.
yeah, that was the yeah, exactly around that time.
So, like,
So let me tell you how it was. It was really small. First off, there wasn't a lot of people of color, so it was all mostly white rappers, in the beginning, and then came a lot of the other cultures slowly and slowly, but it was always a bit more a couple of years back than Montreal, in terms of so the urban flavor was kind of slowly getting into Quebec while it was already dominating Montreal at that time. So it was
right,
more like I would say a very, very small scene. So the people I knew that were more like, coming out of different places, not necessarily born in Quebec, but were now in Quebec, were already in the urban culture, and they were starting to organize a lot of things and trying to take advantage of something new because back then it was just on TV, it was starting the hip hop. It was really slow, and that moment I think Sans Pression just came out and all of that. So it, it didn't really have an identity before. It was just like people trying to rap like French, like Europeans. So everybody was rapping with a French accent, even though that's not how they spoke. So it
that's
wasn't really
interesting.
it wasn't really a mature scene. I would say it was just like a bit more a scene of a bunch of people trying to imitate what they like. And back then it was a lot of French rap because that's what was sold in the stores. Was the French rap, and the U.S. rap was a bit rarer until that's why at first, okay, there's the Wu Tangs, there's this, there's the One, but like you were looking for the little mixtape that nobody knew from the Killer Bees, and try to see Killer Priest and Rascas and all these other ones, and Planet Asia, and discovering all these other flavors. So it was kind of digging in the crates, but in the CDs in the city because we didn't have access to all the same music as everybody
So, is
as
it
everybody.
like France predominantly would be like the main stuff that gets sold? Or?
In the beginning, it was more of that. It was less of the English music a little bit.
That's wild to think about. Like, I guess you don't. I mean, coming from Montreal, I mean, English is available. It's just kind of HMV has all the English music. I vividly remember that, but I couldn't imagine walking in and it's just all French music, and then like the English stuff's just kind of in a corner, and you gotta hope that's
Well, it was mixed in there, but back then they didn't have that much record labels in hip hop either because it was like No Limit, and there was Aftermath, and in
mm,
New York there was a couple ones, so there wasn't that much to look for either. Like everybody was kind of pushing their music in Canada for the first time too. At that time, they weren't really like out there like that.
that makes a lot of sense, and it's interesting to think that it has such a France influence at first, because like I guess you just don't. When I'm young, everybody just kind of made fun of all Quebec music. I don't know if it's because like in the '90s it was cool to make fun of French people, but that's just kind of like what I remember. And so I didn't really give any of the Quebec music a chance till I'm like well into my adult life. And it's just nifty to think how like France inspired it has to be in order to before Quebec could become like sustainable enough to have its own distinct identity from France. Kind of like what
Yeah,
the
definitely.
Anglophone scene did with New York.
Well, I think it's because it wasn't even cool. It wasn't even like you would just sound weird to rap in Quebec because it's just not elegant. It wasn't elegant. Like, not a. It's not a beautiful language that much to speak in Quebecois. It's a bit. No offense, no offense. I'm Quebecois pur laine. Both of my parents are from Quebec. I was born in Quebec City, but I mean, come on, guys. Like if you've been here for years, you don't need to speak like like you're on there on the farm and raising cows, you know what I mean? Like there's the ways to speak to make us look normal, you know? And sometimes it's kind of like Americans too, you know? There's this redneck Americans that always make the people look a bit, you know, dumber than they are. So it's just I don't know if it had an impact on me being a French white kid out of Quebec City or anything, but it's just it was kind of hard to stand out back then, you know, in terms of like I didn't have as much swag either, you know, in terms I didn't know nothing about swag. I didn't care about swag, and that's kind of what sells in the hip hop game. So I'm at a show with a regular shirt or whatever and not care about nothing. I wouldn't even know what a barbershop is, you know, or why, wear shades or whatever, you know what I mean? I had no beard, it just looked weird. And back then you just like rock wear and just anything that was really baggy. So it was like really slim and baggy. It looked really weird.
Nah, I hear that. I appreciate all of this. This is the good shit. Like, I mean, for you, it might be like whatnot, but I'm all about context, right? And so the more you share stuff like this, it gives me stuff to think about. Cause I'm gonna run into people from Quebec City in the future. I don't know enough about it. So like you're kind of giving a window to the people here about like what a parallel existence in the very same place we all live is. You know?
Right. I was just 2 hours away at the end of the day, but Montreal just always been more urban. You know, that's why eventually I had to move there because I was kind of stopped. And, you know, already being bilingual, you could have a better job in Montreal because you're bilingual and there's bilingual jobs. So in Quebec is just mostly 90% predominantly French job. You don't really need to speak that much in Quebec in English unless you're in tourism or other representative roles that require you to speak English. But it's not a place that people even try to speak English that much. You know, they don't even try. So it's kind of unfortunate, but at least in Montreal, it's like a very 50-50. So it's cool. It
Yeah.
allows you to be, that's why it brings more of that urban side because everybody's comfortable in Montreal, you know, even Latin people or other cultures, there's enough people here to speak in their language, you know. It's just everybody's here, you know. It's a whole basket. Everybody, all the ethnicities are here. And Quebec is not as multicultural.
That's wild. So like